August 14th, 2025. Orioles vs. Mariners. Recap: it was a night that began with tension, rolled into chaos, took an unexpected break for Mother Nature to make an appearance, and ended with a gritty, old-school baseball win. The Baltimore Orioles, far from the playoff picture, walked into this game against the contending Seattle Mariners with no pressure and left with a 5-3 victory built on hustle, execution, and the steady hand of a 35-year-old pitcher quietly having one of the most underrated seasons in baseball. The veteran's steady hand on the mound for Baltimore was Tomoyuki Sugano, a name that doesn't show up often in the league's headline reels but should. At 35 years old, Sugano pitched like a man with nothing to prove, calm, composed, and precise. He went 5.1 innings, allowed just 2 runs on 5 hits, walked 1, and struck out 2. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't overpowering, but it was exactly what the Orioles needed. By the time he left the mound, he had already done enough to notch his 10th win of the season, the kind of milestone that might not turn national heads but means everything to a fan base looking for bright spots in a rebuilding year. Baltimore's 4th inning heist. The real drama kicked in during the 4th inning. The game was scoreless, the Mariners had momentum, and the Orioles were searching for an opening. That opening came in the most unconventional way, a wild pitch that allowed Jordan Westburg to race home for the first run of the game. From there, Baltimore's offense turned into a blur of movement. Ryan Mountcastle, showing instincts you don't see every day, took part in a double steal that completely rattled Seattle's defense. Moments later, he crossed the plate to make it 2-0, and then came Daniel Johnson, scoring on an RBI single by Jeremiah Jackson to cap a 3-run inning. It wasn't a barrage of home runs. It wasn't power-driven. It was pure disruption, the kind of inning where chaos itself becomes a weapon. Adding more pressure in the 5th, the Orioles weren't done applying pressure. In the 5th inning, Gunnar Henderson ripped an RBI double, stretching the lead. Mountcastle came through again, this time with a sac fly to push the score to 5-0. It was a masterclass in Honda ball, not the fastest, flashiest, or most glamorous style of play, but one that runs smoothly because every piece works together. Singles, stolen bases, aggressive leads, and just enough pop to keep a defense honest. The rain delay twist. Just as Baltimore looked ready to cruise, the skies opened up. A sudden downpour forced a delay that stretched over 2 hours. Fans scattered for cover, players hit the clubhouse, and the entire rhythm of the game shifted. When play resumed, Seattle wasted no time making noise. In the very first at-bat after the break, Julio Rodríguez reminded everyone why he's one of baseball's brightest stars. He crushed a towering home run, his 24th of the season, to right field, slicing Baltimore's lead to 5-2. The timing couldn't have been more dramatic. Seattle's late push. In the 9th inning, the Mariners made one last push. Down 5-2, they loaded up the pressure with Josh Naylor driving in a run to make it 5-3. The tying run stepped to the plate. The tension at Camden Yards was electric. Fans on their feet, Seattle smelling a comeback, Baltimore's bullpen under the spotlight. That's when Dietrich Enns, making his way back into high-leverage moments for the first time in years, took the ball. He induced 2 critical outs to slam the door, earning his first save since 2021. The story beyond the scoreboard. The Orioles didn't just win a baseball game. They made a statement about how they play baseball in 2025. While much of the league is obsessed with power numbers, exit velocities, and home run records, Baltimore is out there proving you can still win games by stealing bases, forcing errors, and manufacturing runs. It's the Honda approach: dependable, disciplined, and tuned for efficiency. No Lamborghinis here, just a well-oiled engine that gets you from start to finish with surprising speed. Individual highlights. Tomoyuki Sugano, 5.1 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. 10th win of the season. Ryan Mountcastle, 1 for 3, sac fly, scored twice, and disrupted the Mariners with aggressive base running. Gunnar Henderson, RBI double, a key part of Baltimore's middle innings surge. Jordan Westburg, 2 runs scored, including the opener on a wild pitch. Jeremiah Jackson, RBI single that capped the 4th inning rally. Julio Rodríguez, Mariners, 1 for 3, two-run homer, 24th of the season. Josh Naylor, Mariners, 2 for 5, RBI in the ninth. Final takeaway. Baltimore's 5-3 victory was part baseball game, part statement piece. The Mariners, a team in the thick of a division race, were outplayed not by brute force, but by craft, speed, and opportunism. Sugano's quiet dominance, Mountcastle's heady base running, and a bullpen that held on when it mattered most, all combined. August 13th, 2025, Braves versus Mets recap. The stage was set at Citi Field for a game that had all the makings of a baseball classic. Two teams with something to prove, a crowd buzzing in anticipation, and just enough playoff tension in the air to make every pitch feel like it mattered. The Atlanta Braves, a team well out of the postseason race but playing like they've got something to prove, walked into the home of the playoff hopeful New York Mets and walked out with a 4-3 victory that was built on patience, hustle, and a little late-inning magic. Pitching battle, Elder versus Senga. On the mound, it was Bryce Elder for Atlanta and Kodai Senga for the Mets. Both right-handers had their own storylines going in. Elder was trying to rediscover his rhythm, working to show he still belonged as a steady rotation arm. Senga, on the other hand, was tasked with being the anchor for a Mets team whose playoff push was starting to wobble. Elder faced trouble in the early innings with traffic on the bases and the Citi Field crowd roaring for a breakthrough. But he gritted his way through it, mixing his pitches and staying composed enough to keep his team within striking distance. Senga looked sharp early, using his trademark strikeout stuff and forcing weak contact. But as the game wore on, the Braves began to wear him down, stringing together key at-bats that would eventually crack the door open. Key moments, homers and momentum shifts. Lindor's early spark. In the bottom of the third, the Mets got exactly what they needed to ignite the crowd. Francisco Lindor turned on a pitch and sent it flying into the seats for a solo home run. Citi Field erupted. The Mets led 1-0, and it felt like they were ready to take control. Albies strikes back. The Braves didn't let that lead last long. In the very next inning, Ozzie Albies stepped in and delivered a statement swing, a game-tying home run that reset the scoreboard at 1-1 and set the tone for what would become a night of back-and-forth blows. Mid-game wild swings. By the sixth inning, the Mets had grabbed momentum again. Brandon Nimmo lofted a sacrifice fly to bring in a run, and Pete Alonso followed with an RBI single. Just like that, New York was up 3-2, the home crowd was back to full voice, and it seemed like the Mets might finally close out a tight game. But the Braves have made a habit of not going quietly. Atlanta's late surge. In the eighth inning, with the Mets holding that slim lead, the Braves mounted their comeback. Michael Harris II delivered in the clutch, ripping a double to bring home Eli White and tie the game at 3-3. Then came the biggest swing of the night. Albies, already with a homer on the board, roped a double down the line to drive in the go-ahead run. By the end of the night, he would finish a triple shy of the cycle, having carried Atlanta's offense in every way possible. Closing it out, the Braves' bullpen, which had been shaky earlier in the season, rose to the occasion in the ninth. The Mets got the tying and winning runs to the plate, but Atlanta's relievers stayed composed, closing the door and sealing the one-run win. Star player performances: Ozzie Albies, home run, go-ahead RBI double, and the heartbeat of the Braves offense. Michael Harris II, clutch game-tying double in the eighth to set up the win. Francisco Lindor, solo homer that gave the Mets their first lead. Pete Alonso, RBI single to extend New York's mid-game advantage. Intriguing angles. Honda ball in the Big Apple. The Braves didn't need fireworks to win this one. They relied on consistent contact, smart base running, and grinding out at bats. The kind of approach that wears down a starter and flips the game late. Braves refused to quit. For a team playing without post-season pressure, Atlanta is swinging freely and fighting hard. They've now averaged more than 6 runs a game over their last 5 contests, powered by a mix of youth, veterans on redemption arcs, and players clawing to secure roles for next season. Mets' playoff nerves. The loss is another gut punch for the Mets, who have now dropped 13 of their last 15 games. They've blown 3 straight late-inning leads, and their once secure playoff cushion is evaporating fast. Milestones and notes Albie's performance was as close to a single-handed win as you'll see, just a triple shy of the cycle. Harris II's RBI double was his team-leading 15th go-ahead or game-tying hit this season. The Braves' bullpen recorded back-to-back games without allowing an earned run for the first time since June. Final takeaway. This was the kind of midsummer gem that baseball fans live for. Two teams trading punches, stars stepping up in big spots, in a late-inning rally deciding the outcome. For the Braves, it was another example of how hustle and grit can topple a bigger payroll and a louder ballpark. For the Mets, it was another painful reminder that in a playoff chase, no lead is safe. On this night in Queens, the kids from